Thanks for joining us again here at Good Teams Win, Great Teams Cover. We bring you our NFL Week 18 review show, our final review show of the 2025 regular season. Everything was settled. We've got Black Monday well in the swing of things with 4 coaches fired from last night and today. So we'll talk about that as we come. And everything was tied up with a nice little bow on the 2025 NFL regular season. Joe, how was your final Sunday of NFL football, regular season football for the year?
Yeah, it was all right. Week 18 is what it is. There was a lot of games which, no one really cared about, where backups were coming in or starting and whatnot. But at least we got some interesting games, and how we ended the year was perfect. The two fighting for AFC North, we rested Byron for week 18 so you can be ready for the playoffs. And it looks like one team's going there, and let's go straight into that game. I think that was probably the game of the week.
Yeah, absolutely. It's our game in focus, and apologies, you might hear my voice is about to go as well, fighting through. But the game in focus, week 18, it went down to the final play of the final game of the regular season. Didn't expect anything less between these two. The Pittsburgh Steelers 26, the Baltimore Ravens 24. Magic Mike does it again. Steelers own the North. A Sunday Night Football classic. Oh, that's the wrong headline. Point being, anyway, Steelers do it again. Come up with different ways to win. Ravens go wide right and blow chance to walk off as division winners. Steelers hang on and set up home clash as underdogs again versus the Texans. Yeah, this was a game within a game, I think. So we had three quarters and the first part of the fourth quarter was classic AFC North, Steelers Ravens football. It was tight. It was defenses dominating, little pockets of offense, but no team really kind of putting their stamp on it and taking a grip of the game. And then in the final 8 minutes, it just completely exploded into this offensive frenzy. Lamar started making wild plays, the 2 deep throws to Zay Flowers, or big plays to Zay Flowers that ended up in touchdowns. And the Steelers kept punching back. Rodgers kept punching back. And they got big plays in the running game when they needed it, the Steelers. It was a combination of Jaylen Warren and Kenneth Gainwell mainly. Rodgers hits a great, hits a deep pass to Calvin Austin. He took advantage of a slip. And then it comes down to one kick and the Ravens can't get the job done, which just feels like that's just where they are the last 4 or 5 seasons. It's one moment. They just can't get over the line to get to that next stage. And I have to go, what did you make of this one? We'll talk about the game in detail. What did you just make of it overall, Joe?
Yeah, it was a strange game because I get what you're saying in terms of like back and forth, but how the game started, I thought the Ravens were dominating the first, the quarter when they went 10-0 up. And again, like you said, it feels so Raven-esque where it feels like they had that game under control. Obviously, they get a touchdown on the first drive, and you're thinking, okay, Lamar's back. This is the team we've been expecting. The Steelers punt, and then they go on downs. And once they get a field goal, 10-0 up, I was just like, just secure this game, just be who we all expect you to be, control it. But then again, the Steelers marched down, and I think this Ravens defense has just not been what we thought it would be. There was a great stat, I haven't got it on me, but when Kyle Hamilton's on the field versus when he's off the field, it completely changes this defense where they just give up too many yards. And even just going into the half as well, where the Steelers had it on the 1-yard line, and you expect them to punch it in, go 10-10, 10-all into halftime. But the Ravens get the stop, and you just think, okay, this is the momentum where I just expected the Ravens to kick on, but they just didn't, and that's just been their year this year, where they just have too many, series where it feels like they just give the ball back way too quickly. Obviously, that weird interception from Lamar, which it feels like he has them quite a lot in these big games, where it may not be on him, but just weird stuff happens, fumbles and all that kind of stuff, where it just feels like things go wrong. It's just. Like I said, that fourth quarter went nuts, and when they hit that big throw to Likely down the end, you just expected them, to win that game. Obviously, the previous kicker, who we didn't really talk about because we're a scumbag, he had all his career where he had them kicks he hit them, and coming into like, the rookie kicker goes way right, and it sums up perfectly what this division. We'll talk about the other division, how that perfectly has been summed up. I feel like this has been perfectly summed up. This division where you just want a team just to kick on, just to be the dominant team, and it just can't happen. Steelers did play decent, but they scraped that win. But I don't expect them to go much further. But just wide up, both defenses, they were just wide open sometimes, and Lamar hit that fourth down. You expect them to go on, but it feels very Raven-esque, and we're going to talk about Black Monday, but is John Harbaugh going to stick around? Because it just happens way too much where they have a lead or they have these big moments, and people blame Lamar, but there's the Mark Andrews drop, there's the
Zay Flowers fumble at the goal line.
Fumble. Yeah, and it just feels like it's just not going to happen. So it feels like a change needs to happen in Baltimore, but I'm curious if they'll actually do that.
Yeah, I know. I thought again, and maybe I've been a bit kinder to the Steelers. Maybe because I had one of my preseason bets cashed on Steelers to make the playoffs, and so they feel a lot better about them. But I thought Rodgers played really well again, and he threw for a season high 294 yards. And yeah, they got a bit of a break in terms of that pass touchdown to Austin because of the slip. But I think overall his decision making was really good. 2 or 3 of his throws were like classic Aaron Rodgers, like Aaron Rodgers at his pomp. One to Thielen into a space that didn't exist. One in a tight spot to Freiermuth as well. Just really, really good. What we're expecting from an elite Aaron Rodgers, and you're not going to get that all the time now, but he still has his moments. And the interception summed up perfectly for me about how Pittsburgh Steelers can win games, because TJ Watt, Alex Highsmith, and Cam Hayward all had a piece of that. Whether it was kind of a combination of the two, pressuring Lamar and batting the ball, and TJ Watt completing the touchdown. Highsmith had some incredible plays as well during the game. He got kind of faked out by Lamar and managed to chase him down from behind, which I thought was truly exceptional. And yeah, I mean, we saw pockets on Lamar. Lamar getting out of the sack that Hayward and Highsmith had him in was insane. And then finding that touchdown pass to Zay Flowers, which was the first one. But yeah, I don't know. Steelers, I don't know. I think they're alive in that game against the Texans. We'll talk about that in the preview. I think the Ravens have got a lot of soul searching to do around kind of really a disastrous season that never got going. And I wonder, if it is the end of John Harbaugh. But I just kind of feel like he's earned the right to kind of just decide whether he goes or not.
Yeah, I think at some point there needs to be like, it's just happened way too much. We talk about the 14 points up or being so many points up. Like the stat they have it's crazy how many times they've cost themselves, and it gets to a point where, because there's the chatter about is Lamar and Harbaugh getting on and all this kind of stuff. And if there's a decision to make, and you've got to keep Lamar Jackson, I don't know why you would even think about trading him away. But yeah, and it's just again another AFC North thing where Boswell misses that extra point on that kick, and I wonder if he hit that, then if the Ravens got, obviously things change, but if they got to, when they threw it to Likely and took the time out of 14 seconds, if they would have thrown a few times at the end zone, and just how Lamar was looking and how that defense was, Ramsey got caught quite a few times where, that could have changed. I thought, we'll just settle for the field goal to win it rather than to go anywhere. Yeah, it's one of them weird things where the Boswell miss probably helped them actually to win because the Ravens didn't actually go for it. So, yeah, I'm not as confident as you, just because I still think there's some issues. Obviously, getting DK back next week, which we'll talk about in the preview, is massive. But yeah, it was a weird game where if you had the under, you would have been sitting pretty going into the third quarter.
The amount of time, look, I didn't bet that as a single bet this week. Like the amount of times I've had that under, and especially it's been in these primetime games where the first half's been completely dog shit and such low scoring, and then it just explodes. Not even necessarily in the second half, just in like a quarter. Like this was in the space of 8 minutes where all the scoring happened. You mentioned kind of the, was it written for the Steelers, with the missed field goal? There might have been, Joe, some divine intervention at play. I don't know if you saw this before the game, but shout out to Jenna Harmer from WPXI, which is Western Pennsylvania news, like local news. She's a reporter. She captured this bit of video, which showed a local priest, Pittsburgh priest, spraying holy water
is this going to be like a level of Spygate in a few years' time if the Steelers go away to win the Super Bowl, where using outside interference to win it?
Yeah, because I think it was all the way down the end zone, spraying holy water, and yeah, look, that could have been why the kick was missed ultimately. Who knows? Divine intervention. But yeah, Steelers progress. Steelers are the AFC North champions, and yeah, host the Texans next week. So yeah, obviously real interested to see how that goes. That's our Monday night football game with obviously the Steelers playing late on Sunday night. Let's head to our spotlights and takeaways. So just a couple this week that we've got for you, with Byron being out. But Joe, we're going to go to your team. It was the Saturday night game. We didn't get the classic that we were all hoping for, but it's the Seahawks 13, 49ers 3. The Seattle defense shows they belong with the elite as they shut down NFL's hottest attack before running all over the 49ers. The Seahawks lock up the number 1 seed, and Niners offense on Alcatraz. Yeah, I mean, let's start from a Niners perspective, Joe, so we've been your team. What just kind of went wrong is you just feel like they just could not get going offensively at all. And was that more just how good the Seahawks defense was, or was there an element of, I know the Niners offense has been so good recently, it was always going to slow down a little bit?
I think it's that defense. I think that was always my worry for the 49ers. When you're playing teams against like the Bears, who have not got a great defense, and maybe someone like the Packers and even the Rams. The Rams have got a good defense, but not as good as this one. I always thought they had a fighting chance. I was worried about this game, and I thought this game would show how, I don't want to be a Debbie Downer, like how serious the 49ers could be in the Super Bowl, because they've got to play a few teams like this. And again, the preview one is the worst outcome. There was 4 outcomes for the 49ers, and what they've got is the worst out of the 4 from my point of view. Playing against a great defense where they're going to stop you quite a lot of the times. The 49ers might be able to plan their mind, get one of these teams, but I can't see them doing multiple times. And the Seahawks, Mike McDonald's defense, we've seen it before against the 49ers where they've managed to confuse Purdy. I think I saw a stat where when Mike McDonald is at the 49ers ground, I think he's like crazy stat where Brock Purdy's 1 touchdown, 6 interceptions. So just how they managed to do that. I think at the start of the year, the 49ers actually played well against them. In the opening game, I think Brock Purdy actually had one of his best games before getting injured and actually kept the ball quite a lot, threw for 277 yards. We still had 2 interceptions, but this time they just couldn't get it going. I think not having Pearsall was massive, not having Trent Williams was massive. So I'm curious if they do play again, if that changes anything. But it was just disappointing, and obviously the interception. I think there was a slight touch from the defender before he got to Christian McCaffrey, which it happens. But the Seahawks deserve that win, 100%. The only good thing what the 49ers did was kept them in the game when that defense was atrocious, and going into the game I expected that. But what Bob Saleh said is, we're going to give up a lot of yards, but it's all about points. And when you look at it, they only gave up 30 points against a team. It felt like they were in the red zone every time they got the ball. The offense just needed to keep the ball a lot more. And the time of possession was crazy in this game. But, I think what the Seahawks do perfectly is that just how they set up, they play a lot of nickel defense, and so able to rush with just 4, and they still get home quite a lot. They've just pressured Brock Purdy non-stop through the middle, through the edges, just whatever they want to do, and then they can just blanket all the wide receivers. So I think they just had a perfect game plan, and I did see it online. Someone said like the issue with the 49ers now, the Bears showed how to play against this defense, how to just run all over them and get all the yards, chunk plays, and the Seahawks just took from that. So we'll see what happens when they play the Eagles. But yeah, disappointing from the 49ers. But we talk about divine intervention. I don't know if you saw this stat. The Seahawks have got a connection to new popes. When there's a new pope installed, the last 3, they have got to the Super Bowl every single time. So 2004, 2013 with Pope Francis, and this year winning the NFC West. So, yeah, we just expect the Seahawks to be in the Super Bowl because that's what happens when a new pope's there. So it's the Steelers versus Seahawks. It's God's own battle in San Francisco.
Interesting, because we've got another NFC team that have got a bit of a run going, that have got into the playoffs. That's when certain things happen, they get to the Super Bowl. So one of those has got to go. Well, both of them might go, I guess, because it's not guaranteed that both get there. So I'll bring that up when we get there later. But I was really, really impressed with the Seahawks. I've ranked the Seahawks really, really highly in our power rankings. Thought they were good. I just didn't believe that I could not see them getting through the playoffs and getting to the Super Bowl. I can absolutely see it now. Because we talked about is that when the lights are on Darnold again in these moments, is he just going to choke? Well, the answer to that is don't give him the opportunity. Do not put the game on Sam Darnold, because actually, if the defense is this good and we can run 5 yards a clip, 180 yards, rushing the ball 40 times, and the game isn't on Sam Darnold, and the game becomes easy for Sam Darnold then, because actually they can, when they're running the ball well, they can play a lot of play action, and it's easy completions for him. Some really, really good throws, don't get me wrong, but everything was easy for him in this game because how good the defense was playing, and that ability to run the ball. And that's where maybe kind of like last year, the Vikings couldn't do that in the playoffs in that game against the Lions. Whereas this year, actually, it just became easy for him. You just keep things moving. Don't have to do anything special. Don't have to try anything heroic. We're protecting you. We're running the ball. You're not having to win the game for us, Sam Darnold. And this team can absolutely get to the Super Bowl doing that. We've had, in the last 10, 12, 10 to 15 years, it's been a prerequisite. You've got to have an elite quarterback to get to the Super Bowl. You've got to have an elite. No, this is not the year for that. The Eagles kind of flipped that a little bit last year in terms of how good that defense was. It's the trends happen and things change in the world of the NFL. You've got to have a top defense, an elite one. That's what's going to win you a championship this year, and that might be the case for the next few years. And this, what I thought was a very good defense, is actually way beyond that. It's an elite defense, and they were unbelievably good.
Yeah, I think he didn't win the game. He just didn't lose the game. I think that's what they need to do for Sam Darnold, because there was still a few plays where the sack when they won the first, on this 49ers 1 yard line, the opening drive where Charbonnet was wide open. He's just thinking, just throw it to him. I was watching it with a few Seahawks fans. Taking that sack was not good. Obviously, he fumbled and they managed to get it back. So little things like that went their way, and if that doesn't go their way, we've seen against the Rams a few times where he's thrown a few interceptions, he's fumbled the ball, and the other team gets it. That's when you start worrying where, is he going to be able to just, is that defense going to be able to carry him? I think I'm still interested to when they play the Rams. I think the Rams deserve to win. Technically, that set, well, obviously they didn't the Seahawks won, but it was a crazy game how the Rams didn't lose that. It felt like they lost that game rather than the Seahawks won it, just with some of the issues they had. So I'm still curious how we'll play against a defense which is actually a good defense, not like the 49ers. You can't really judge the 49ers an offense versus the 49ers right now, just because that defense, it is trash. It just gives up so much yards. But when they play against a team where you got the Rams, who can also is a good defense, but also probably slightly higher power, it has a different kind of offense than the 49ers, where I think they got 500 yards than when they played last time. So I'm curious how we're playing them kind of games, where obviously he came through against the Rams, but that was only because they got a punt return and a crazy 2-point conversion, where that's not going to happen every week. So he did what he had to do. They've got the first round bye, and they'll be playing at home, which maybe Mike McDonald didn't want that. Maybe he should have actually lost it, because they play better away from home than they actually do at home. So curious what that is. But no, they clearly deserve the ball. They had the ball. The game, they had the ball 15 minutes more than the 49ers, and it was a depressing watch. And it was one of them where they just kept every time the 49ers didn't get some, I was like, okay, if they score the next drive, this game is over. But the 49ers just, it was just, I think the Seahawks kept it close rather than the 49ers kept it close, just by a few, Myers missing easy field goals and whatnot. But move on to next week, and you take that number 1 seed.
Excellent. Yeah, so we've got the Seahawks having a rest and the Niners in Philadelphia, which is interesting for your household next week, Joe. I'm sure that'll be a fun one. Excellent. Right, let's move on. Sticking with Saturday night, it's the Panthers and the Bucks. This is your takeaway, Joe. Bucks 16, Panthers 14. Round of applause for the NFC South. Not in miserable weather, which perfectly describes these teams. Bucks come out on top. However, they may have won the battle. but they did not win the war. Not enough for the Bucks. The Bucks left themselves too much to do. Boned by that Atlanta Falcons Monday night win and the second one, which we'll talk about. Ended up at a three-way tie. 3 8 and 9s that are all very different, which is crazy. But what did you make of this one? It was rough going, wasn't it? I just felt this one kind of, just nobody just took control of it.
I think it just perfectly summed up the NFC South, where it was miserable weather. So you just think, oh, well, all the wide receivers not wearing gloves is always a fun sight just because like the monsoon and whatnot. But it felt like in this game, it felt like he settled perfectly for Carolina. He thought, run the ball, keep the ball that way, just beat this Bucks team and go into the playoffs, showing who you are, at least going in with some positive momentum, but they've lost the last two as well. And it was just, like I said, a miserable game. I had both quarterbacks for an interception, which happened in the first quarter. It was like, it felt obvious that was going to happen. There was missed field goals. There was that horrible fumble play, which why they were trying to do a cute your flea flicker when you're the 24, when you just marched down, you're 9 points behind. That as soon as that happened, you thought, well, that game's done. And even if you get anything out of that, you've got a chance to win it. And it's just being too cute for their own good, especially in that weather. And even when they mashed themselves down and got that touchdown, and then it was too little, too late for the Panthers. It was just I've literally brought this in as a spotlight just because it was probably the only game which also mattered as well. But it was just a horrible game all around. I think Bowles should be sacked. They should get rid of him. I know he said that he thinks he deserves to keep his job. That he thinks he's done enough. He's earned his chance to keep the job, and it's a bit like, have you though? It's like you've won plenty of divisions, but these divisions are bad divisions. If there was one of a good team, then they wouldn't have made the playoffs the last few years. And I think it's just gone downhill. That defense has just not been what their strength was, and what Bowles' strength was is not been there this year. And I think he's just ready for a brand new regime there. And obviously we'll talk about someone else who was 8 and 9 who's got a brand new regime, but I think the Bucks as well. They have announced that he's not meeting the Glazers today, so maybe he's safe, but I don't know. How do you feel about Bowles?
Well, the Glazers have probably been a little bit busy today, firing one coach already. They've probably been involved in that a little bit, getting rid of Ruben Amorim a little bit. So a bit busy to be firing another coach in there, stable as well. Again, I think probably time for change. It's just not really pushed on. Because we talk about the Bucks are so consistent and they are, how they've done and won 4 straight titles and all that. But actually, I think he's a game above 500. So realistically, it's just been how poor that NFC South has been. It's why he's been able to do that, I think. So I think sometimes flat to deceive a little bit the Bucks. I know we like a lot of the Bucks players and Baker and great players on defense and Evans and got all that's good. But actually, when you look at it, it's flat to deceive, and they've not been anywhere near as good as winning 4 division titles in a row suggested. I think is kind of where we're at. Carolina Panthers, on the other hand, an 8 and 9 that looks glorious when it wins you a division and sets you up with a home playoff game. This is the other team, Joe, that has. Is it their year? Is it a Panthers the team of destiny? So try this on for size. Shout out to the guys at Pardon My Take for this. I heard this one. I think I brought this up maybe at the start of the season, but it started to come to fruition. So when Ohio State are the reigning national college football champions, as they are, so they won at the start of 2025, and they're the reigning champion. The Panthers have had a losing season the season previous, which they have. They opened the season against the Jacksonville Jaguars, which they did. Jennifer Lopez files for divorce, which she has. The Panthers make the Super Bowl. It happened across 2002 to 2003. Ohio State national champion. Panthers had a losing record the season before. Started the season against the Jags. J-Lo files for divorce. Panthers made the Super Bowl. 2014-15, Ohio State national champion. Panthers had a losing record. Opened the season against the Jags. J-Lo files for divorce. Panthers make the Super Bowl. 24-25, Ohio State are your reigning college football national champions. They've opened the season against the Jacksonville Jaguars. J-Lo filed for divorce again. Are the Panthers going to make the Super Bowl?
I feel like mine's a lot better odds to happening than yours, but you never know. And who knows? The next husband of J-Lo needs to be a Panthers fan, and he needs to make sure all that's happening, and then suddenly them divorce papers are coming out. If the Panthers make it to the Super Bowl again, I think the other team made sense. Just how good that the Cam Newton teams was, and the other two. If this team gets to the Super Bowl, then yeah.
Well, Jake Delhomme was the quarterback for one of those teams, so so you never know. But just a quick other fact as well. So this is one more for our preview, and I'll bring it up again. But while we're here, so off the back of a loss this season, so the previous 8 losses that the Panthers have had, they are 8-0 against the spread. They're going to have a big number against the Rams next week. I think it's 10 as it is. That might go up. Take the Rams, and they already beat the Rams. I'm taking the Panthers in the points. 8-0 against the spread off the back of a loss this season. Not bad going. So we'll see if that holds up come the wild card round. But yeah, it's been fun. We're going to have Keg on. Keg's going to be the Panthers Magpie. He's going to be one of our guests for the wild card round. We had to get him on. Long-suffering Carolina Panthers fan. So cool to have his team in the playoffs. So he'll be part of our preview, and we'll preview Rams against Panthers. Here, next up, where should we go next, Joe? We're going to our overreactions. That's where we are. It is the other game, Falcons Saints. We've kind of talked about it a little bit. It's what enabled the Panthers to get in. Falcons 19, Saints 17. Raheem's final act paves way for the Panthers in the de facto NFC South title game. The Falcons do Carolina a solid. Morris and GM Fontnot clear desks as 4 wins in a row, not enough to save jobs. So I think this is the first one that broke last night, that the Falcons are going to get rid of Raheem Morris. Yeah, crazy that we had an NFC South division title decided in a game that neither of the two teams that could win the division were playing in, which is just absolutely bonkers. But again, it is just so NFC South. Falcons win. Saints cover with a late touchdown to Ronnie Bell, who I've never heard of before. The Saints had guys in off the street for this one. Delivery drivers, just people on the couch. Like, it was crazy, and they still almost won. But this was more just on the fact that Raheem Morris and Fontana has gone. I thought this run was going to give them a chance, or at least give Morris a chance to keep his job. Are you surprised the Falcons have made the decision that they have, Joe, to part ways, or were you expecting that Morris and the GM were going to go?
I think obviously halfway through the season, he was like, he's definitely going. I thought that he did enough. Doesn't mean I think he should have kept his job and it was the right thing. I just felt like how they ended the season. But I think there was like a crazy stat where it's like the Falcons' record once they've been eliminated from playoffs is like crazy good. But before not being eliminated from playoffs, they're terrible. So obviously they must play better when there's no when there's no consequences. But yeah, I feel like it was the right thing to do. I was actually surprised with the GM. When I was reading a little bit more, it sounded like the GM was definitely going and maybe Morris wasn't. But when you look at that squad as a whole, it is a good squad. I feel like it could be a kind of Jags team of this year where if they get someone, if they get the head coach right, that they can suddenly be challenging for, high playoff spots. Just because when you look at that team, they've got stars all around, and that's what's always been confusing and probably annoying about this Falcons team, where they've beaten the Bills, they've beaten the Rams, they've beaten plenty of good teams, but they lost the Jets. And when you look at it, that Jets loss was the reason they didn't make the playoffs, and they lost lost the Panthers not scoring at all. Obviously, it was a big decision with taking Michael Penix 2 years ago. I think they were expecting bigger things this year, and that's why they went for it. I actually think, we talked about that trade, and it was like, wow, they've gone all in, and that's a bit crazy. But I think it's actually kind of worked out. I think James Pierce is looking really good as a defender. And so the Rams have got the 13th pick next year from the Falcons. And if you'd got a James Pierce kind of player, you'd be really happy with it. So I think
the issue might be the other one, who Jalen Ward.
Yeah.
So either way, you've given, to take those players, you've given up a top, almost top 10 pick. So was it top 15 pick?
But then they were going to take Walker, and they would have not had James Pearce. So if they're not traded, they would have had Walker, and then they would had not a good pass rusher, and then they would have been picking 13 this year, and then again it was similar spot to Walker, so you'd have to try and nail that pick. But actually, the actual James Pearce pick has he's played really well. So I don't think that trade's that bad now looking at it. I know you mentioned the Walker, but they were going to pick Walker anyway. He was a higher draft pick, and obviously they picked him first anyway. If it was the other way around, it would be like, oh, yeah, you gave a first round pick for Walker. But so I don't kill him as much for that. I think obviously got sort out. I think everything went wrong with the evaluation of obviously Penix, where they expected him coming, how he finished the 24-25 season and come into this year. They expected him to progress and be, a top 15 kind of quarterback, and he just wasn't that, and he slipped back down. And weirdly enough, this offense looked a little bit better with Kirk Cousins, but I don't think he was actually that amazing either. I don't think he was that great in this game. I know he had illness. But yeah, so that's why I was surprised. And the overall team, the defense has actually been pretty decent this year. It's not been too bad. Obviously, Xavier Watts has been a great pick. Later on, he got a few interceptions last time, and he had another good game. So that's why I'm surprised. I feel like it's better just to clean house if you are going to get rid of one. Yeah. I'm a bit confused why they're going to bring Matt Ryan as a like the programs director, and the GM's going to fall under him. So really the decisions are going to be made by Matt Ryan, and the GM's not going to be. So then what kind of GM's going to want that way? Oh, you're just going to get a quarterback of this team. He's going to make the decisions. Like, is that really, the top GMs, the top kind of candidates? Are they really going to go and do that? I think this is a great opportunity for a head coach. I think this is an awesome team, and you need to get an offensive guy and make this offense tick and get a good defensive coordinator. But yeah, I just find the structure, and there's like some weird things where I've seen a team's going to let their GM do we really want him to sit under? But yeah, it just feels like a weird situation why they're bringing Matt Ryan in, who's got no experience in terms of running a franchise to basically oversee everything in terms of take over some of the GM positions. I just think that kind of thing doesn't work, and we've seen it elsewhere where they've tried to do that kind of thing. And I think, was it Tennessee or someone else already announced that they're going back to a GM's going to do the GM work and not having this personal, is it?
It was Tennessee, yeah. But yeah, Arthur Blank, the owner, wrote quite the letter to Falcons fans today, which is just madness. So yeah, we'll see. I just wonder, because it feels like this is a job for one of those kind of trendy young offensive coordinator gurus, but we don't seem to have many of them this time around. It feels like there's a lot more old heads in the mix this time or available. So yeah, I
think maybe a Kevin Stefanski could be a decent shout. If they get rid of Mike McDaniel, which has been gossip today, because apparently the Dolphins, if Stefanski or Harbaugh is out of a job, then that'll be a team they're interested. That they would be interested in them too, so they'll get rid of Mike McDaniel. So Mike McDaniel against the Falcons could be interesting. I think there could be some of them. I think every year, there's always a head coach for when Dan Campbell was hired, we all were laughing, we all sniggering at it. When some of these other ones, we were thinking, well, that's not going to work out, and it has worked out. Kellen Moore, people were a bit, weren't over, enthusiastic about that, but that's kind of worked out. So I think they should just go for it. Just get someone who can command the actual the overall. But then there's players like Clint Kubiak, where the Seahawks has done a good job. I'm sure there's people.
I like weirdly for this. Big Mike McCarthy. He's had a year out.
He's been studying tape. He's changed his philosophy.
It kind of worked last time, because when he had a year out and then came back and had 3 12-5 seasons with the Cowboys, obviously then the fourth one didn't go very. The fifth one didn't go very well, but yeah, why not?
Just don't hire Matt Nagy. It just feels like this is going to be just like a Matt Nagy kind of hire, and we're here again 2 or 3 years time. Then the Falcons are after someone else.
All right, excellent. Right, let's go to your overreaction, Joe.
So I just went, did Steichen sell their playoff chances down the river? After an impressive performance from Riley Leonard against the Texans, who has a daunting defense, should he have started the previous game when the Colts were actually in playoff considerations? Carly disagrees, as everyone, including the GM, which is nuts, keeps their job. We thought the GM, why can't I remember his name?
Chris Ballard. It is insane how
Chris
he's still hanging on.
We thought he had something over Jim Irsay. He's got something over that whole family if he's keeping that job. It was the right time to go. What they've traded away, I think is worse than what the Falcons. And obviously, Sauce is already established a good cornerback, but cornerbacks so up and down. And is he that player? But he was. I don't know if you saw that awesome stat where it's like the worst record was like obviously 3-15, 3-14. Sorry, Sauce Gardner's 2-15.
Yeah, I was going to say Sauce Gardner, if he was an NFL franchise, would have the number one pick this season.
Exactly. So I could understand keeping Steichen. I think Steichen's a good coach. I think obviously things just went terrible at the end of the year. So I wouldn't be surprised if he'd left, if Carly Irsay just thought, fuck it, we'll just blow it all up. But I was surprised they kept the GM just with some of their picks, some of their, the trade. They haven't got a first rounder next year. Or the year after. Was it 2 first round picks?
Yeah, 2 first round picks for Sauce, yeah.
And they may have messed up with, we don't know what Daniel Jones is doing. So if Daniel Jones doesn't want to stay and he decides to leave the Colts because they don't want to pay him, and I think someone will pay him like a good backup with that injury, you've literally got no first round picks and you haven't got a quarterback.
Yeah.
Again, which is the call. And Philip Rivers, who has been apparently, again, rumored to be a head coach contender, which again, yeah, if someone goes for Rivers, God bless you, good luck. Well, it could be a Jeff Saturday kind of move. But yeah, it's just, I was looking at the games and thinking, which one should we talk about? I thought Leonard Riley actually played really well in that game. And they were pretty close to winning it. It was going back and forth, and then a big man touchdown at the end settled it.
Yeah, that's cool. So I think probably my take on this one was around that Texas defense, because obviously they saw what was happening in Jacksonville, which we'll get into later, and Jacksonville done enough to win the AFC South. They were pumping the Titans. So DeMeco Ryans made the decision to sit everyone. But the Colts were in that game, and Riley Leonard was looking good against the starters of the Texans before they pulled. Then he just got better against the backups. Is there a worry that the Colts were keeping in this game off? And not necessarily defensively, it was offensively where the Colts were moving the ball up and down the field on the Texans. Does that worry? Should that be a worry for the Texans heading into the playoffs?
Not really, just because we've seen the Texans throughout this year, and especially the last few weeks. I think sometimes when it felt like the 49ers when they played against Phil Rivers, or even like the Seahawks, where it's like, it feels like they don't play their A game because they were like, we're playing Riley Leonard. This is going to be an easy game. The levels drop slightly. They're probably thinking they're not going to get that pick anyway. So I'm not that worried. I think it's just a one-game sample size. How they've been the games before that against the Chargers, against the Chiefs, against a lot of teams where they've actually beat up on offenses. I think that comes back for next week. I think this was just one of them games where they just took it a little bit easier on the Colts and probably didn't go all for it. So no, I'm not too worried. If I'm being honest.
Texans a 5 seed, go to Pittsburgh on Monday Night Football. Right, let's head into our 4-fold challenge. And we had somebody that hit. Our guest hit this week with his 4 selections. So shout out to Tom for Ravens across the pond. Panthers, Giants, over in Titans, Jags, and under in Saints, Falcons. So yeah, great way to end it. Sadly, I couldn't complete the miraculous comeback against Byron. I killed on Saturday night with over 48, then there been 16 points. I had the Raiders as my underdog. Raiders plus 5.5 beat the Chiefs. Had this, am I right in saying, if this, obviously, the Giants won earlier in the day. If the Giants hadn't have won and the Raiders won this, the Raiders would have boned themselves out the number 1 pick, wouldn't they? Yeah, so
and we'll talk about the Giants in a bit, but yeah, they basically boned themselves.
It would have been the Giants, the Giants kicked themselves down to 5. So yeah, I found that astonishing. But anyway, nothing too much to shout about in this one. We had about 5 minutes of Kenny Pickett. Then Aiden O'Connell came in. But the news is Pete Carroll gone in Vegas, one and done. Just didn't really the whole point of him, I think, was to be culture setting and get them moving in the right direction, a steady hand. and it was just a complete and utter disaster. And they have a victory over the Patriots, which is also insane in week 1.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, they lost 14 of the final 16 and have secured the number 1 pick. And apparently, Mark Davis seemed to suggest that Brady's going to have a much larger role within the franchise moving forward, and especially recruiting the head coach. Does this feel like a particularly? I know obviously all the jobs are desirable. Does this particularly feel like a desirable one given the other ones that are there?
No, this is the one you don't want. There's rumors that apparently Bob Saleh was fairly close to getting the job last year. So there's like, oh, maybe he'll get it this year. I would say, Bob, don't do it. I know head coaches' seats don't come around all the time. The franchise organization is just in a mess. Obviously, you'll get the number 1 pick, but the rest of the team is just trash. I mean, it has been just plenty of years of just bad picks after bad picks. Obviously, they've hit on a couple, but it feels like they're getting disgruntled now.
Well, Crosby seems on the way out.
Yeah. There's been the GM says he's downplayed it, but we've heard that before. And if a player kicks up enough stink, I think players there are just getting sick of losing. And they're just, when you look at this squad from top to bottom, it's just a bad team. Obviously, Gino's going to be out. They're going to bring a young quarterback. I worry finding a young quarterback which goes to that team because I don't think it's set up great. They haven't got wide receivers. They've got a terrible defense. So I would say stay away from that. And I'd be surprised. I think he's going to be like either a veteran head coach who's had a chance and is probably not going to get another chance. Just go, why not? Or it's going to have to be like a young coach when no one's talking about, because why would you go there? It feels like if you're a top candidate, because even look, I think Stefanski is probably the number 1, I would say, head coach out there, and he's already got some
interview requests,
some interviews requests, and I think it's like Giants, Falcons, Titans. But I'm going to be shocked if Ian goes to that Raiders one, because why would you? I think
it just seems a mess, a dumpster fire, and I don't know. If they take Mendoza at 1, I feel like the discussion and what I've been hearing already, just listening to it today, is maybe they don't take a quarterback at 1. And maybe they try and fill. They've got so many holes, so many needs, and try and build the roster, and then get a quarterback further down the line. Take a bridge, take someone like a Mac Jones or somebody that's going to be there in free agency, just to keep a bridge, and then get a quarterback down the line. I also, for Mendoza, if he goes there, he's going to be out of the league in 3 or 4 years. It's going to be a mess. So, hopefully for his sake, he doesn't go. Flip side, possibly the last game for Travis Kelce.
Yeah, I didn't actually fully go into. I know there was some stories about what was happening in the locker room, but I don't know. I think he might have 1 more year. Just I think how this year ended, but
yeah, I don't know. We'll see. But Raiders 14, a lot of low scoring games this week. 14-12. I had the Seahawks 9 over, which obviously didn't hit. Sunday Night Football under, which didn't hit because of the crazy last 8 minutes in Ravens Steelers. And then Patriots as 10.5-point favorites. Took care of business 38-10. Has Drake May done enough for MVP, or has Matthew Stafford, with his Week 18 performance, slid in and pipped it right at the end?
Nah, I think it's Drake. I'll be shocked if it's not Drake May. It's just because he's not had a bad game. I think that Stafford, even though it's a year award, it feels like the last few weeks matter. And because what happened against the Falcons on prime time, I feel like it killed it. So
Stafford's a favorite at the minute, 5-9 on. 9-5 on, so 5-9. Drake May 7-5. Seems odd to me. I agree with you. I think it probably should be Drake May, but huge day on the ground for the Patriots. 243 rushing yards, 4 rushing touchdowns, 2 for Stevenson, 2 for Trevor Henderson, and Stevenson added another one through the air as well. 14-3. Unbelievable turnaround. They won 4 games last year, right?
Yeah, I don't know if you saw that stat though. Do you know what their record is against teams above 500? Or how many teams have beat above 500?
1, right? They've beat 1-1. The Bills.
They just beat the Buffalo Bills, which is like nuts when you think about like trying to judge a team that they've only beat 1 team above 500. So
I think that's because we said they went and beat the Bucs in Florida, in Tampa, when the Bucs were still okay. And obviously they beat the Ravens. They beat the other week, and the Ravens played relatively well. So I don't know. I think it's a bit harsh, isn't it? That. But yeah, 14-3. They host the Los Angeles Chargers on Sunday Night Football. It should be a good game. Dolphins think Mike McDaniel stays, just from a Dolphins perspective?
Well, I keep seeing apparently not making the decision today. Apparently, him and Tua's meeting tomorrow or this week to discuss the QB option next year, which is just very Miami-esque. Yeah, I wouldn't be shocked if it's him and Tua again next year, and the tripod whole spin on it, just because of and it's like, who else are going to get? They paid him all that money. It's not anyone's going to give many draft picks for him. So there's been rumors he's going to stay, but then, like I mentioned earlier, apparently Miami. Ross, the owner, is interested in Stefanski, and possibly if Harbaugh gets let go from the Ravens, that could change his mind. I think they're just going to keep him. I don't think they should, just because I don't know. It's just not being great. When you look at the reasons to get rid of him, he had that one good year, but they were just soft in the playoffs, and he was brought into. Can't beat good teams, can't win on the road, can't win in circumstances where it's weather or prime time. He has bad game management. He's got a good offensive mind, but that's not been amazing this year. Obviously, no idea what's happening with Tua, but if they get rid of Tua, what are they going to do? You can't just draft the player. Are they going to really try and draft someone? There's no free agents, so I would just start again. But I wouldn't be shocked, like I said, if we sat here doing the AFC East previews and we talked about Mike McDaniels and Tua going again.
Trying again. Excellent. Well, that was 2-2 for me. I finished 32, 38, and 2. So that's me doing the 24 hours in Taco Bell, eat myself out. That's a terrible phrase. Eat my way out of Taco Bell. I think we'll do that in the gap between Conference Championship and Super Bowl, and we'll find a way to record some videos or just have a tweet thread for it. So I'm going to be a very poorly man. And Joe, you and Byron need to work out what the items are time-wise, and don't set me up so I die, because that's possible, I think. Die in a Taco Bell booth somewhere in West Yorkshire, which is going to be a grim way to go.
That'll definitely be on we might get some more listeners and, get on some
north,
look north, Local man dies in Taco Bell.
Yeah, excellent. He had 15,000 calories in 6 hours trying to get out of the building. Anyway, Joe, you've had obviously much more successful fourfold year. You finished 42-30, going 2-2 in week 18. You had the over in Bears Lions. Just the one on this, obviously, the Lions end up with a winning record 9-8. The Bears didn't score until the fourth quarter in this one. And you mentioned you were expecting, obviously, the Lions to go out fighting, which they did. Is there a worry there again that it took the Bears till the fourth quarter to get on the board here against the Lions defense that has been pretty poor? Didn't see the usual dominance of the ground game from the Bears. And apart from Colston Loveland, they couldn't really get anything going through the air.
Yeah, I think Burden didn't play too much until the last quarter as well. So when they started getting him in play, that's when it all started looking good. Obviously, got a Dunze didn't play, he's still injured. I think he'll probably be back for the playoffs. I am worried just because it's Bears. They've lost, they lost the last two. They only scraped past the Packers, the week before on a crazy play. So they could have lost the last three. I don't know. I don't think they're a Super Bowl team. I think it's going to be a fun game against the Packers. I think they could win that game, but it feels like the Lions are one of them unlucky losers where even though they finished fourth in the division, which is nuts that all four teams have got a better record than the Panthers who are in the playoffs. I think they have something. It's just one of them division games where they have something over another team. If the Lions could actually have a red zone offense this game, they've gone in the red zone so many times and just kick 3 points. If they actually were the Lions of old, where they could actually punch it in, where when you saw the Bears against the 49ers, you thought anyone could do that. So I thought the Bears defense did well to limit the points, but again, you just worry about the overall. If they're not getting takeaways, they're going to give up plenty of yards. And if they play against a Rams team, a 49ers team. Even the Seahawks, I think that defense is just not good enough to hold up, and the offense is not that. It's a good offense, but I don't know if it's special in order to win them kind of games, which we just saw the 49ers weren't either. So there is a worry. Good on the Lions to get that 9-8. It works out that they finished fourth in the division, so next year they're going to have the 49ers kind of situation. Schedule. Compared to the other teams, so that's handy for them. They're going to the off season, winning the Bears twice. So They don't finish 2 games behind them, and it's a very what if. But again, I don't think they were quite good enough to challenge the top teams. I think that like, especially that offensive line, I think they might have a few more players retiring as well. So it's they've just got to build that offensive line. They've just got to do what the Bears did, and do that. And Charlotte, I saw this, Chris. I've seen like Joe Tooney. Like, have you seen his like record throughout his career, just winning division after division for and now the Bears?
There you go.
He's like won the division. So the Bears had worked out that way. So it'll be interesting against Packers though. Third game, see how that goes.
Will be a great game. Yeah, rivalry renewed, of course, and play each other for the third time. Yeah, games the Lions put 450 yards of offense up on him, only scored 19 points. But yeah, the Bears only one takeaway, and I think that's the key. They need multiple takeaways in a game, I think. I think that's kind of the key for them through the playoffs, and can they sustain it? Because obviously they've been on such a breakneck run with them. And we'll see. Dan Campbell gave himself an F for how he thought he managed the season. So some self-scouting there from Dan Campbell. You had the Cowboys as 3.5-point favourites, and Joe, they just didn't bother turning up. They want to take the game seriously and play to win, and then only play back a half. And then this was an unbelievable mess. We saw Joe Milton. We didn't get fun Bazooka Joe either, which was just sad. Giants, as we mentioned, potentially bowled themselves out of the number 1 pick and dropped to 5th. But they were fun. Jackson Dart was fun. Tyron Tracy had a decent game, and that kind of was about it. The Cowboys were just woeful, just a woeful effort on defense again from them. Apart from Jadeveon Clowney, he ended the season with 3 sacks, and even though he didn't start the season with the team, leads the team in sacks. So it'd be great to see Jadeveon Clowney back. Matt Eberflus still not fired.
I'm guessing. Would you say this is the worst Dallas defense in quite a long time?
They gave up 500 points. A franchise worst 500 points in the season. Yeah, it is. It was
when Gunnar left, Skids getting 100 yards on you. You know, it's not a great defense.
It was touch and go whether it was worse than the 2020 defense or some of the Rob Ryan ones. But yeah, 500 points, I think, is the marker to say it was the worst defense in franchise history. They're apparently going to take 10 to 12 days to review review the situations. That'll be sometime just before the Super Bowl, I imagine. That'll mean really more like a month before Matt Eberflus is fired. And then any other decent defensive coordinator that we wanted potentially to go after is probably going to have a new job. So, yeah.
What about if the what the hell is his name? The Vikings DC, if he's available.
Yeah. So that's the noise that they're going to go after Brian
all the money. Yeah. Give him
he has a contract with the Vikings, so
I think he runs out. He runs out at the end of the year.
I think they have to buy him out. I'm sure I was listening to something earlier, but we can confirm that. But yeah, that's the thing that will probably appease everybody if they went and got Brian Flores. But I think inevitably what they'll try and do is just go in-house or somebody they've worked with before or somebody that's been at the Cowboys in the past, all that stuff. And it'll be disastrous. Hopefully they give Shotty the choice and let him lead it and get who he wants, but we'll see. And it was just putrid all around. Only bright spot, I think, Jadeveon Clowney mentioned. Jaden Blue looked real awesome. He's been kept out all year. And part of that's because Javonte Williams has been real good. But they drafted him out of Texas in the mid-rounds of the draft, and we've not seen him all season. He was awesome. So apart from that...
I don't know if you saw Jerry Jones. He said if they beat the Giants and they were 8-1, that'd be a winning season for them.
Yeah, he's a fucking...
I know on the Giants side, like you said, they could have had the number 1 pick, slid all the way down to the 5th pick, which is absolutely bullying them. And Joe Shane is keeping his job.
Keeping his job.
22, 55 and 1, his record as GM. And I don't care what they say, like, yeah, he drafted a few good players this year. We've talked about this. Byron said it. I'm not sure about Jackson Dart, if he's actually going to be that, top guy. I think he's a big candidate for a sophomore slump. I don't know how, the running back, he got injured. He's just that kind of running back where it feels like he's going to have a big injury every year. And it's and they're supposed to have this incredible defense, which didn't step up at all. So, he made the easiest pick with Abdul Carter, really. So I don't know how he's keeping his go. Again, another GM who must have something over the owners. They got 22, 55 and 1, and the trades he's made and how stupid he's looked in certain shows to keep his job is just You expect that from a different New York team, but not the Giants.
Yeah, unbelievable. As well, plus I look at, we slagged him off the other week about maybe being a bit of a bust of a first year. He's finished off well down the stretch.
I think he's done, yeah.
Which is good. I think he's at 3.5 sacks in his last 5 games. So, yeah, a lot better from Carter. So we'll see if he can carry that forward into 2026. You had the under in Chiefs Raiders, which hit, and the Saints as 3-point underdogs who covered right at the end.
Ronnie Bell.
Yeah, Ronnie Bell. Yeah. So
I think he was a former Niners wide receiver, I think.
Yeah.
That's why I'm using him.
Yeah, a lot of optimism in New Orleans for how they finished, and looking likely Tyler Shoug's going to be the offensive rookie of the year. He's odds-on favorite.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, finished off well, 6-11. The Saints. Byron had the Texans as his favorite, which was they didn't cover. They only won by 8. They were -10. He had the over in Sunday Night Football under 38 points in Bills Jets, and the Bills put up 35 on the Jets, 35-8. Mitch Trubisky, 22 of 29 for 4 touchdowns, and most importantly, 0 interceptions, which means the New York Jets have gone through the entirety of the 2025 season without a single interception. Something I just didn't think would be possible in the pass-heavy NFL. Truly astonishing. Yeah. Well, I don't even know what to say. There's so many insult stats there for the Jets. I just don't really know what to say about them much more. Joe, what do you make of where kind of the Jets are and where they've got to go?
Yeah, it's I won't lie to be a Jets fan. It's like I've seen a lot of Jets fans like online being like, this is one of the worst years. Like I know they've like tanked technically, but teams have put up more of a fight than this team has. The last few weeks conceded 35, 42, 29, 48, 34, 27. That must be like average of above 30, where your head coach is defensive coach. I know you got rid of Sauce Gardner, you got rid of
Quinn Williams,
but you know, plenty of the teams that have lost their star players, and you know, we talked about in the preview that they were one of the best defenses 2 years ago under Bob Saleh, and then after 2 years, it's all gone to pot. So I don't know with that team. A few weeks ago, I thought they should keep Glenn because obviously they were doing the rebuild. And if you're going to do that with the GM, you've got to, you know, you've basically said to them, we're tanking this year. Now you've got the number 2 pick. You've got quite a few first-round picks this year and the year after. But I don't know if I trust them. Like when Dan Campbell was there and they had the bad first year, you saw something though. You saw where the vision, where they were going, the type of head coach he was, and that he could get most out of bad players. I don't see that under Aaron Glenn, so they're going to keep him, give him another year. I thought he was going to be similar to what the Patriots did, but you know, I just hope they don't get suckered into getting the quarterback and number 2 pick. I think they're a team similar to the Raiders where they need so many players, other players, get some good blue chip players, you know, in the first round this year, maybe go for the quarterback again next year, because I don't think they're going to be that good next year. There's rumors that they're going to release Justin Fields. They're looking for a veteran quarterback, but they just don't grow on trees, you know.
Yeah, there's going to be some about, isn't there? We talked about.
I'm curious. Yeah, but do you really want to in New York? Do you really want Kyler? I think if ever a team, but then I think it would be a disaster as well. It feels like if there's like a Lamar Jackson, or I don't think Joe Burrow, but it'll be that. If any of them like come on like, oh, is anyone interested? I could see them giving up like 4 first-round picks for Lamar Jackson. Yeah. But again, I think it would be a disaster. I don't know. I was really confident and really upbeat with the Jets coming in this year. Them over 5.5 wins. I thought they were going to compete and maybe, you know, at least get to 8-9 wins just with what they had and just the optimism. And yeah, it's just deflated when a Bills backup team is destroying you this much. It's
so
yeah, it's not good luck.
Blind resume for you. Okay, who is this quarterback? 14-3, 3,600 passing yards, 36 touchdowns to 0 interceptions with a passer rating of 111.
No idea.
That is every single quarterback that the Jets have played this season. that would be an odds-on favorite for MVP. if you combine every single quarterback stats that's played against the Jets so far, or in the 2025 season. Truly terrible.
And that's bad when your head coach is a defensive-minded head coach as well.
Yeah, disaster. And then Byron finished his 2-2 with the Lions +3. Obviously, it won outright. And we mentioned Tom's winning full fault. We discovered, by the way, I messaged Tom this morning, congratulating him. He didn't back it. Sadly, he forgot to put it on. So that is a shame. But yeah, congrats on being the first guest of the year. First guest, I think, in 2 years to hit the 4 selection. So well done, Tom. And yeah, go follow Ravens Across the Pond as well. I'm sure their episode that will be out today, I assume, will be a great listen. So commiserations. But yeah, go follow the guys and go listen to the show. Let's go to our ATS picks. The one thing I'm good at, yeah. Where did we finish this week? So losing week for you to finish on, Joe. Byron went 10-6, won the week, and I finished 9-7. 144, 119 and 9, 54.5% ATS. Not bad going. That's a money-making year. If I'd bet every single game, sadly I don't bet every single game, but we'll get on to that because we've got a lot of positives to share on that as well. But yeah, all of us on the Panthers, we're all on the Niners. Sorry about that, Joe. I was worried as soon as I saw we're all on the Niners. I blame
you guys, yeah.
I shout out to the 49er Faithful UK guys as well. Paul messaged me today, Paul Hope, to say that they're having another watch party in Leeds for the wildcard game against the Eagles next week. And I messaged Joe earlier to say, well, obviously I should go. It's just down the road. And obviously we love the 49er Faithful guys. They're always great with us, always very welcoming. It's always great to hang out with them. But I did warn Paul that we were 0-4 at the watch parties this year as well. So Joe, what do you think? Should I stay away or...
Well, I would hope Paul was rescinded your invite. To be honest,
no, always welcome. Always welcome was the response.
Well, Paul doesn't know the curse too much. Yeah, I think you should stay away from my point of view, Paul.
All right, I mean, I'll get them to put it out as a vote to the 49er faithful guys. But it's all down the road, and it's always great to see them. So we shall see come Sunday. Just Byron on the Saints. All of us were on the Bengals. And while this game didn't matter too much, obviously Kevin Stefanski fired. We've mentioned him as about a potential candidate for jobs. But Kevin Stefanski fired. Again, been a bit of a mess again, the Browns. But they did win 5 games, which kind of the way it was going. I didn't think they would. But most importantly, Myles Garrett got his sack of Joe Burrow. Should we take a quick look at it, Joe?
Oh, let's do it.
Let's do it. Where's my Myles Garrett video? So this is from the NFL X account. Can you just pull down the ATS thing for us, Joe? Excellent. So yeah, this is it.
First down. Burrow, he's under pressure. He's sacked. And there it is, a record that has stood nearly a quarter of a century has a new leader as 30-year-old Myles Garrett records his NFL record 23rd sack of the year.
Yeah, it was an awesome moment. Again, we mentioned it. Shame he couldn't do it last week, just in the 16 games. But, yeah, incredible season, to be fair. Absolutely going to win Defensive Player of the Year. Well, we're all expecting him to be crazy if not, right? Obviously, he's massively odds-on favourite to do so. So, yeah, great work from Myles Garrett. And, did on Joe Burrow. It had an air of the Brett Favre just kind of falling.
I don't think it was that bad. I think what I've seen, he beats the left tackle so quickly that Joe Burrow was like, it's the last game of the season. Do I want to try and throw this ball and get absolutely creamed by someone? Or do I just, because he was like no one. It wasn't like he could escape. The only thing he could have done is just thrown it away, probably. So, and Burrow does take a lot of sacks as well. It's not like he doesn't take any sacks. So I think he was a legit one. I think he was pretty weak from what Zach Taylor and even Jamar Chase as well, complaining that they got extra time celebrating the sack on the field. That they basically did like a timeout.
Yeah, play a game. Yeah.
As Zach Taylor says, we were fighting for our lives out there, and it's like, come on, mate, you're 6 and whatever, and you're losing to the Browns. Let's not pretend this you're trying to get into a playoffs, and this mattered so much. I just think it was a bit weak from them. It's like, if that happened to one of his players, then I can't imagine him being saying, "Oh no, let's not celebrate." So
Yeah, no, absolutely. Thoroughly deserved from Miles Garrett. And yeah, let's see. Look, maybe have another crack at bettering it next year. Browns part ways with Kevin Stefanski. We'll see. Zach Taylor staying, though, and the GM. The director of player personnel. Yeah, he's got 1 year left in his contract that we're never going to pay him out. So that's just what the Bengals do. They don't clear snow off the seats, never mind pay out a head coach. Vikings won 16-3. Bit of controversy in this one around the Vikings we had it at 7 when we did the preview. It ended up being minus 13.5, and there was some around kind of the Packers waiting until the last second to kick a field goal. Some very unhappy Vikings minus 13.5 bettors booting off, but kind of looked like the Packers was going to let the clock run out, because it's like, well, go for a touchdown there surely, but just run it to 2 seconds and then kick a field goal, which was wild.
I don't mind it too much. Like, they weren't gonna, if they got a touchdown, it wasn't like going to matter, and they'd rather have 3 points than absolutely zip. So I think that does matter to teams that you haven't been shut out at least. So I don't mind it. It is what it is. If you're betting on these kind of games, it's you take it with the good with the bad.
Excellent. We had the Jaguars. They sealed the AFC South, 41-7 winners against the Titans. Obviously, this was over by halftime. It was 31-7. Cam Ward injured, so had a really good first drive, including rushing in for a touchdown. And then in the act of rushing in for the touchdown, he's got a sprained AC joint. Luckily, not serious enough for him to have surgery, because he's been a bright spot, especially like the last month. I think he's played really, really well. I think in the end, even though they're 3-14, I think he's actually done well given the lack of anything around him. But Trevor Lawrence really good again. They've got kind of the momentum heading into the playoffs. You expect the Jags to make some noise. They host the Bills next week.
Yeah, I think that's one of the most exciting. I was surprised when the schedule has come out that game's not, I'm guessing because of the Jags market's not massive, but I think that's one of the most interesting games and the most fun one, because I think the Jags coming into this playoffs are probably the hottest team. Like, offense, defense, special teams, it's all clicking into place. Obviously, Cam Little just can kick it from anywhere. But the Bills are the Bills, and I'm still leaning the Bills to make the Super Bowl. So I think that's going to be a really fun game. I think from the Jags, it is interesting. Like, out the 3 wild cards, you got the Bills, the Chargers, and the Texans. Would you say the Bills are the worst team to get, or do you think the Jags are pretty happy with hosting the Bills?
Yeah, I think the Jags fancy themselves against anywhere, to be honest. They won 8 in a row. Yeah, 8 in a row. Mm-hmm. And the only game they lost in that was that crazy game against Houston, which they gave up after that fourth quarter comeback. Like I said, they've been a different team. Coming back from London, they've been a different team. I feel like I mention this every single week. They're a completely different team. They are playing unbelievable football. Trevor Lawrence has found it in Liam Cohen's offense. Yeah, I don't know. I really like the Jags next week against the Bills. Even though the Bills are my pick to get to the Super Bowl, from the start of the season. I really like the Jags next week, and they're getting points as well. It's plus 1.5 at the minute. I wonder if that will change in the week, but I really, really like the Jags.
Yeah, I think I will obviously preview, but I think a lot of the underdogs are the nice prices for all the wildcard games.
Yeah. We'll see where we are. But yeah, Jags host the Bills. Should be a good one. Texans, Colts, we've already covered. Bills, Jets, we've already covered all on the Bills. We just Byron on the Lions. The Broncos, Joe, and I spotted this. I was cleaning up our sheet earlier. So you had a 6-1 bet on the Broncos to get a shutout over the course of the season. This was the one. Going up against Trey Lance. This was the opportunity to do so, and it ended up finishing 19-3. Which was a shame you didn't cash that 6-1, obviously, preseason bet. But yeah, again, I've been a bit worried about the Broncos offense. I think it's just completely tailed off. Or was this just a keep the Chargers at arm's length, don't let it become a game sort of situation?
Yeah, I have no idea, to be honest, because they played the Chiefs the week before, and it wasn't like they blew them away. I know the Chiefs defense is decent, but against the offense they were playing, and they got hammered by the Jags. So yeah, I think it is a worry just going in, just like this feel like clicking the Chargers rested a lot of players that are their stars, and I understand why the Chargers did that, because I think if they win next week, they'll be playing the Broncos, and you don't want to give too much away, so they kept a lot back. So I'm curious if the Broncos did the same. It was just like an easy win, but not super impressive. So I feel like it could be one of them teams where going into the playoffs, they get the week off, but then they're just very slow at the blocks to start with.
Yeah.
Winning game, I just worry about they're not that number one seed where you're like, wow, they're scary. No one wants to play them. It's like I think most teams are like, you know what, we fancy our chances in Denver against this offense. So not hugely impressive, but I feel that's the whole of the AFC. I don't think anyone's like, wow, you don't want to you don't want to play them in their stadium. It feels like it's so open. It's a fun one.
Yeah, we'll see how it. Yeah, Broncos number 1 seed got the week off 14-3, which again astonishing from where I think they were a couple of years ago. Having to eat that Russell Wilson contract, and yeah, just madness really. You know, this is the team that got the Miami Dolphins put 70 on in the 2023 season, and like look at where those two teams are now. Astonishing. Last couple of games, Rams. So me and you were on the Rams, 37. I think the Rams, it was a struggle for the first half, but the Rams got their mojo back in the second half. McVay was adamant he was playing everybody because they'd struggled offensively. And I think by the end of the game, they'd got the mojo back. And that's worrying when they're a 5 seed.
Yes. I still think the Rams are the scariest team, but they've just been a weird team. Like the last 3 weeks, you get your mojo back, but if you don't have your mojo in a full game when you're playing these big teams, I think it helps obviously playing the Panthers. That makes it I know they lost to them, but still, it makes it a lot easier. And when the Cardinals went up by, I think they went up by 4, I was sat there thinking, holy shit, the 49ers could have the Panthers here because the Cardinals are doing what they want. So I still worry about that defense where I think that defense can get got at. There was a huge play where Wilson caught one. It was like a 60-yard bomb, and they brought it back for like, I think it was a bit harsh. I think it was a holding penalty or something like that. But that was a big turnaround from going. I think the Rams had just got up by 3, and the Cardinals would have been driving then. So I still worry about that kind of Rams performance where it feels like a team can get at that defense. But they did what they had to do, and they're playing the Panthers, which is the perfect wildcard opposition you could get this playoffs.
Yeah, we had a great video for this one to share, but it won't play now. The Trey McBride hot mic after hurdling the defender, shouting "boom, motherfucker, I'm him," which was great. And he is him. Obviously, his record, he increased that record even more. I think him and Puka came into the game with the same amount of receptions, but Puka got 3 more than him. So, unfortunately for Trey McBride, and I feel sorry for Puka in one way that it feels like the last 2-3 games, he's had like about 300 yards taken off the board. Yeah.
Either from like 50-50 calls or flags. It's been crazy for Puka, but he's just incredible. He's, just the amount of catches and big plays he has.
Trey McBride finished with 126 receptions, 1,239 yards, and 11 touchdowns, all ranked number 1, obviously, in tight ends. Very high up the list in just receivers in general. Just a great year, all-time tight end season from Trey McBride. Also, Michael Wilson is awesome. I know it's been a few weeks, but he is just cementing himself. Who needs Marvin Harrison Jr.? Michael Wilson is awesome. He's been incredible.
And obviously the Cardinals sacked their head coach.
Yeah. Jonathan Gannon gone and GM gone as well.
So this is where I'm a bit like, we're going to see Kyler Murray with the Cardinals next year, aren't we?
Maybe. I don't know.
It felt like, obviously, because they basically sat him down, and Jacoby's played, and I don't think he's won a game or maybe won 1 game against the Cowboys. That it felt like Murray was done. They're going to release him. I think they've got to mid-March to for his guarantees and all that kind of stuff. But now they've got rid of the head coach and the GM. This feels like, they're getting defensive. Who's going to fix Kyler? Because it's easy to do that than to try and start again with, like we said, I don't know where they're picking. They're picking 3rd, so they could always pick up the quarterback there. But I feel like they're going to stick with Kyler again and just go into next year being like, we can fix him.
Remember they started the season 2-0 as well.
Mm-hmm.
2-0 and they've ended up 3-14. So 1-15 since. 1-14 since going 2-0, which is. And who was that win against, Joe? Who was their only other win against after starting 2-0?
Against the Cowboys.
It was against the Dallas Cowboys on Monday Night Football. Yeah, There you go. Stafford, 4 touchdowns, great performance. And I think, got rolling again, which is dangerous. Rams head to the Panthers, as mentioned, on Saturday. Panthers taking over the Texans spot there. That's usually whenever the Texans are in the playoff, that 9:30, 4:30, I guess, Saturday slot is theirs. Not anymore. It's Carolina Panthers. Last game to talk about, NFC East, Commanders, Eagles. Me and Byron had the Commanders. You had the Eagles. Not too much to talk about, I suppose, this one. 24-17, 14 points in the fourth quarter for the Commanders. Obviously, Eagles pretty much just kind of stuck in their position. Not much to do. I've not really got too much to say. I'm surprised Dan Quinn hasn't gone today. So,
Yeah, I've not heard any rumors about Dan Quinn, didn't I?
It's been bad. I kind of thought he might have be gone. But
sorry. I was just looking at like the rumors. There's nothing being like heavily on Dan Quinn going, so I'm guessing he's probably going to remain. The other thing with the Eagles, they could have got the 2 seed, which would be nice for my 49ers. I was hoping they would win and the Bears would lose, just so the Eagles would get the 2nd seed. So that puts you more likely to not be at home. But I've got a feeling the Packers are going to beat the Bears, so it doesn't really change anything. So
we'll see. Not too much. Eagles pretty much sat everybody. Tank Bigsby carried the load, and Devonta Smith was in until he got his 1,000 yards and came out of the game. So that was it. Eagles finished 11-6, champions of the NFC, and host the San Francisco 49ers in a rematch of the NFC Championship game from 2022, where every single 49ers player got injured. Every single 49ers quarterback got injured. And had CMC trying to throw it at the time. So hopefully that doesn't happen again. Anyway, right, should we do our last run through of the bets for the regular season, Joe?
Let's do it.
I trawled through the sheet this evening to just let you know, Joe, I mean, just for the benefit of, I think you know, because I'm sure you read the message, but have a guess. How many winning bets do you think we gave out over the course of 272 regular season games in the NFL, Joe?
Oh, I did read the email, but I don't know if this says a lot about my memory or that I just don't pay attention to your messages.
We don't email each other here at Good Teams when Great Teams score, just to be clear.
It's going to be... I know it's nearly a bet per game, so it's going to be around the 218 mark.
269 winning bets we shared between that's insane. Almost enough for one every single game over the course of the regular season in the NFL. That is insane. Biggest hit, Byron had 40-1 on Rico Dowdle as the Sunday rushing yards leader back in whatever that week was that he went off. Not against the Cowboys, it was the week before that he did it. I can't remember who it was against. 40-1, which was outstanding. And regularly winners above our biggest hits of the week, both 5 and 6 to 1. And on average, 15 winning bets every single week shared on our podcast across our social media channels. And considering we're not like betting experts or charging for tips or asking, there's not behind any sort of paywall or anything just to follow, I think that's absolutely insane. 15 a week is incredible. And funnily enough, Joe, we hit exactly 15 this week in week 18. So let's start with you, Joe. Both quarterbacks are throwing an interception in Panthers Buccaneers at just over 2-1. Brenton Strange, 50+ receiving yards and a touchdown at 4-1 in Titans Jags. Tyjae Spears, 5+ receptions at 17-4 in Titans Jags. Trey Lance, 50+ rushing yards. 13-2 in Chargers Broncos, and Kenny Gainwell 5+ receptions and 50+ receiving yards at 4-1 in Sunday Night Football. Plus Chargers Broncos under 37.5 and Jets Bills over 37, both 10-11. Byron gave us Bills over 29.5 points at 5-2. Trey Lance over 60 rushing yards at 9-2. One of them, I think those odds are the wrong way around, by the way. There's no way you got better odds for 50+ rushing yards than Byron did for 60. No way on earth. Jags over 33.5 points at 3-2. And Ted McMillan, 80+ receiving yards at just over 2-1. I gave you Panthers +2.5, Jags -12.5, under in Chargers Broncos, Steelers +the 3.5. Steelers as a home underdog. I'm doing it again this week. Just those this week for me. A bit of a quieter week for me. No props. But 15 winners all in all, 269 for the season. So it really does pay to listen to good teams win, great teams cover, and you don't have to pay. It's free. All it is your time. Or just follow social media channels, because I guess all of that's going there anyway. Probably listen and watch. That's more preferable. Let's hit up our final Fantasy Game Day winning lineup of the regular season. 168.14 points for B3312, the final regular season winner of Sunday Stars. Bengals loaded, and crazy considering they scored 14 points, 17 points? They didn't score a lot of points, did they? And ultimately, the trio of Jamar Chase for 47, Burrow for 21, and Chase Brown for 19 was enough to kind of carry this team. Ramondre Stevenson with his 3 touchdowns at 35.3. Michael Wilson, who's been a feature in these winning teams for the last 9-10 weeks or so, at 20.9. Kevin Austin Jr. of the Saints, 7.7. Khalil Herbert, a name I've not seen or heard in the NFL for a very long time, at 5.6. And Dalton Schultz at 11.3. So, yeah, it was the Bengals that led the way for B3312. Byron Cash, he finished 14th in the competition, but sadly, not quite there. We've still not won a Fantasy Game Day yet. We finished second twice. Just can't get it done.
Well, there's the playoffs to
playoffs to come. And if you are not playing, come do so. Crazy if you're not. Download the app now, Fantasy Game Day, the UK's best and fastest growing NFL daily fantasy platform. If you play any sort of fantasy football, get involved. There's entry-level games at £3 a lineup, or if you're more serious, 25 quid a pop. And yeah, you win cash prizes if your lineup finishes in the top however many. Download, use promo code cover, get yourself a free entry after your first play. And yeah, come and join the fun for the playoffs. Got to be 18 years or over in the UK. And of course, please gamble responsibly. That's us, Joe. That's us done for the regular season. Regular season is in the books. We are on to the playoffs. I don't think we call it Super Wildcard Weekend anymore, which is a shame because I quite like that. But we're back with our Wildcard Weekend preview. That'll drop on Friday. We've got Keg, the Panthers Magpie, joining us to talk about the Carolina Panthers making an appearance in the playoffs, and potentially another special guest helping us preview some of the games as well. So make sure you check that out. Follow at GTW_GTC across all social media platforms, TikTok, X, Instagram, Twitter, Blue Sky. I think we're going to have some Charlie picks back for the playoffs as well. And catch the podcast video version on YouTube, audio versions available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Podbean, Spotify, Overcast, Spotify, wherever I've not mentioned. Wherever you get your podcast, you can find it. And we'll be back on Friday for our Super Wildcard Weekend preview.